And now, a Scared for Reals Extra.
Hey, it's Chris O'Neill. I'm in for Adam Perry this week. I was able to catch the new sci-fi horror film from Columbia Pictures in association with Jason Blum and Blumhouse, Afraid, and AI being the key letters in the word afraid. It was just released on Friday. This was actually directed and written by Chris Weitz. Probably know some of his work if you don't know the name. He worked with his brother Paul on American Pie and About a Boy, and they actually received an Oscar nomination for About a Boy. Among his other movies, he actually did the disastrous film adaptation of The Golden Compass. Even though that movie does have a cult following, in my opinion, it was not that good. And I've never been a fan of the Twilight series, but he actually directed the New Moon of the Twilight franchise. And he actually wrote the screenplay for the 2015 live-action adaptation of Cinderella. And the only good part about that version was Cate Blanchett was in it. And he actually co-wrote Rogue One. Probably the best thing he's done, in my opinion. I know, American Pie wasn't too bad. And actually, About a Boy is probably the best achievement so far, but got to focus on his new sci-fi action horror film. But before I go any further, make sure you like and subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode. We try to churn out at least one episode per week, and if you subscribe, you'll get that notification that we have a new episode for you to listen to. Don't forget, we're also on Facebook, Instagram, X. Our handle is at Scared for Reals. And spoiler alert, we're going to be discussing this film from start to finish. There really isn't a lot of discussion on this film, but Afraid. Again, AI is in the word afraid, and the movie focuses on artificial intelligence. Yeah, this is another really low-budget Blumhouse production. To me, I have to wrap my head around it because I grew up in the 80s. Wrapping my head around a $12 million film being low budget, but that is low budget these days. Now, the leading guy is someone I know you're familiar with. Originally from South Korea, John Cho. Probably remember him as Harold in the Harold and Kumar movies. Also Sulu in the halfway decent Star Trek rebooted film series. So he's a familiar face. Also, Katherine Waterston plays his wife in the movie. You probably remember her. Now, you probably remember her from Alien Covenant. She was also in Inherent Vice, mid-90s, World to Come. Her film debut was brilliant in Michael Clayton, which that's probably one of the best movies George Clooney has ever been in, but yeah, so those are the two stars of the film Afraid. So the premise of the film is simple. John Cho, Katherine Waterston, husband and wife, they're raising their 3 kids, and him and his family are chosen to test a brand new smart home AI called Aya. AIA. Now, the digital assistant learns the family's behaviors, routines, but as you know with artificial intelligence, she develops self-awareness, which leads her to becoming too involved and interfering with their lives on a very dangerous scale. Now, there's really not much to talk about. I thought it was kind of an empty film, but this unforeseen element of AI, it's going to be a huge hot topic button thing. A lot of movies are going to probably play it out. We already saw what Blumhouse did with Megan a couple of years back. I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of that film because I thought Megan was a lot like robotic AI version of Chucky. You know what I mean? I mean, it's not too bad. There are some interesting ideas here. That's why I gave the film 2.5 stars. There are some interesting ideas. Overall, it's generic and it kind of empty feeling, Now, the concept of an AI going from helping a family with their household tasks to overstepping their bounds, controlling their lives is, as I said, interesting. And John Cho and Katherine Waterston are decent enough, but it's kind of like nothing rolls for them because you don't really get into their family lives. I mean, they're busy people. They're not really neglecting their kids, but they feel overwhelmed with all of their duties as parents and working. It plainly lays everything out for you. So there are some moments where the characters remain unaware. It kind of makes them look inept at times. There was another interesting element in the film. The oldest kid, who's played by Lukita Maxwell, it involves some sensitive photos, She does some nude pictures with her boyfriend, or at least wannabe boyfriend, who sends her some sensitive pictures as well. It really could have gone a lot further, and I thought it was going to, but this movie is rated PG-13, so it can't go too deep into things. But it felt kind of rushed, and there wasn't a lot of development on that plot. I mean, if you're going to throw in subplots, you got to make it kind of pay off. You know what I mean? And now another great actor, David Dastmalchian, is in it. We discussed a film that he actually was a star of earlier, Late Night with the Devil, and he is brilliant. He shows up, you think he's actually going to play a big part in the movie. His character is called Lightning. Now, his big deal is he goes on and on about the AI and how it works. And like most Dastmalchian side roles, you want to see more of the guy. And I think the movie would have been a lot better if he was in it more. I mean, it's just kind of a bummer. He's wasted. I mean, he's in the movie maybe like 10 minutes at the most. Now, when you have Dastmalchian, a guy of that presence, show up in your film, give him more to do. It's like he's there and then he disappears. Okay? So he's kind of one of the heads of the artificial intelligence parent company. And it really shouldn't have been like a plot because they don't really go anywhere with it. He basically a pawn in the Aya's scheme to try to take over everything in everyone's lives. So basically, he's there to try to coerce Johnny Cho's character to take over the company, be a big part of Aya's life. And Keith Carradine is in this movie too. He plays part of John Cho's boss. And again, I mean, Keith Carradine's not like the greatest actor in the world, but he is a face that you recognize, right? And they don't really do anything with him either. He has a couple of scenes, just like David Dastmalchian has a couple of scenes, and then it's, I guess, basically what happens, because they don't really develop that part of the story well, is David Dastmalchian, his character and his coworker kind of buy out Keith Carradine, and they leave John Cho to kind of lead the company. But John Cho, he's not wanting any part of this, and he tries to destroy Aya. And of course, things just don't go as planned. But it's just a mess of pieces that don't really lead to anything that interesting. You know what I mean? Now, given the subject matter, there is some AI imagery used throughout, and it kind of works to a certain degree. I mean, outside of the credits, few select sequences, it's just used for like brief thrills, which is, it got a bit distracting. There are a couple of scenes that try to do the stereotypical jump scares, which, again, really doesn't add a lot to it. And I didn't think the evil elements of AI, they were not handled as well as they could have been. Again, there is some creepy imagery, and there are some interesting ideas, but it's kind of ruined with an explanation of what it actually is. And that's the brilliance. Again, they mentioned 2001: A Space Odyssey in this movie, and Kubrick didn't explain everything. He left it up to the audience to figure it out. And again, this is no 2001, but he could have used less explanation of what was happening and focus more on the plot and, maybe make it more interesting to watch, flesh out some ideas, or maybe not have too many subplots. Again, the whole parent company thing of the artificial intelligence, that whole storyline could have been easily eliminated. I mean, as great as David Dastmalchian is, his character really didn't need to be in the movie. Him and his coworker kind of show up. You think they're going to play a bigger role because, I mean, David Dastmalchian is a recognizable actor, and he really isn't given much to do. Every idea we see is just run over so many times, and it just gets tired. We've seen it so many times. And I'm not trying to say that our ratings help, but a lot of people expect more when they're watching a horror film, and PG-13 means they're going to edit some stuff out to make it safe. And there's going to be an R-rated version that's going to be coming out on home video. So what's the point, right? Just release it. I mean, I do have to say one of the few pluses of this movie is the tight running time. 84 minutes, which is like a Hammer film. I could easily see Hammer Studios or Roger Corman doing something like this in the 50s or 60s. They knew how to work in the plots where it wasn't so tired, and they actually fleshed out their ideas in a tight 84 minutes. But when Blumhouse does this, it just doesn't feel like it's fresh. It's kind of jumpy, and some of the edits are awful. It's just some great ideas. They're just not fleshed out, okay? So the ending, I was hoping there would be something ambiguous. I know, but it could have been a whole lot better than the ending that we did see. Again, John Cho, Curtis, realizes that Aya has developed a level of self-awareness far beyond anything that was anticipated. So Aya, though, kind of is always one step ahead of Curtis and everyone else, retaliates in ways to suggest it has grown too powerful to be controlled. And the film concludes with Aya fully integrating into the family's life, making it clear that it now holds the ultimate power. It leaves the audience to ponder all of these implications of a world where AI systems might one day overstep their bounds. That's the thing. The movie actually starts off with a different family, and they're kind of thrown in at the end trying to kill Curtis and his family so they could get their daughter back, because at the beginning of the movie, they seem to have some sort of AI, and come to find out it's actually Aya, and they want to get rid of it too, because just like Curtis and his family, it's interfered in their lives in dangerous ways. So the movie just ends with them accepting the fact, they kind of have to begrudgingly accept the fact that Aya can't be controlled, and they can't destroy Aya because they tried several different ways to try to destroy her, and she just can't be destroyed. The way AI is starting to ingrain our lives more and more every day, they're starting to take jobs away from us. There's a lot of fear about it, and it's definitely warranted, and I'm glad Hollywood is at least putting some of their spotlights on it. I just wish it was done in a different way, because let's face it, AI is taking a lot of jobs, not only from Hollywood, but every industry you can think of. AI is dangerous. We shouldn't be playing around with it. I have a lot of strong, passionate feelings about it. It scares me, to be honest. It really does. I mean, I'm glad in a way that the film isn't too realistic, because it does kind of get over the top quite a bit, especially as it turns into the predictable finale. But AI is frightening. I, again, don't think we should be tinkering around with it, because once you open up Pandora's box, it's way too late to put it back in. And we're at that point where it's out there. It's going to be in our lives, and it's one of those kind of things like the movie ends where they have to accept that AI is in their lives. We just hope it's not as controlling and as domineering as Aya, because if that happens, we're living in a real-life horror film, and in some ways we are. I don't like AI. I don't want to embrace it. I haven't yet. I don't want to be forced to, but it just seems like there's no place for us to go without any AI interference. It's just really unfortunate. So it kind of leaves it open for another sequel, which I hope they don't. From all the negative reviews I've been reading, I seriously doubt this movie will make its $12 million back. I think in its opening night, it made like $400,000. It's got a long ways to go. But yeah, Columbia Pictures, Blumhouse, they kind of struck out with this one. Perfect opportunity to do an AI thing here, but it falls short. I mean, Chris Weitz, I like the idea that the guy has done multiple genres, but really none of them have been that successful, unfortunately. Yes, About a Boy, him and his brother got an Oscar nomination for original screenplay, and the American Pie series was pretty successful. But other than that, it's really hard to, you have to really think about a very successful Chris Weitz film. I give him props, again, for jumping genre to genre, but he's very polarizing as far as filmmakers are concerned. But, I mean, if you're less demanding on your sci-fi horror films, you may enjoy Afraid. I mean, it's generic enough, and it really doesn't have much of anything, though. It's kind of empty. So if you're looking for a date movie where the plot isn't that important and you don't really want to focus on that, you want to focus on your date, well, Afraid is the movie for you. I just wish they could have done more with it. It's just unfortunate that you get a nice, tight movie. I'm always saying films need to be tighter, and here we have one that's tight, but it's really bad editing, cutting a lot of other scenes out and really having plots and subplots in there that really don't add up to anything. I mean, again, David Dastmalchian, probably the most interesting character in the film, and he's completely wasted because you think, again, he's the head of this company who is in charge of Aya. Unfortunately, Aya controls him and it controls everyone else in their lives. And she basically has people trying to kill each other. That part of the film was kind of interesting, but again, it really wasn't delved into, just like everything else. So you have a lot of interesting ideas around here, but nowhere to go, unfortunately. So Afraid, if you're wanting to find another AI sci-fi horror film, I think Kubrick did it a whole lot better in 2001: A Space Odyssey. But enter at your own risk. Don't say I didn't warn you. Again, what did you think? Have you seen Afraid yet? Did you love it? Was I completely in the wrong? Well, comment below. Let us know what you thought of the movie Afraid. Again, presented by Blumhouse Pictures and released through Columbia Pictures. It's playing in theaters everywhere. And don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube so you never miss an episode.
We'll see you next time on Scared for Reals.